Hello, welcome. Today we are going to turn your hand drawings or writing into digital vector images. Now, I doodle, it's one of my pastimes, but I also like to put my doodles into my poetry books. So that's what you're looking at are just a bunch of my random doodles on a page. And the way we're going to do this today is using two free tools. Now, the first step that I do is through GIMP, which is an open source image manipulation program equivalent to probably Photoshop or something like that that you would use. But it's really great. It allows you to edit in layers. If you're not using GIMP, you really should be using GIMP. But if you have already a PNG or a PDF of your document where you don't have to cut things apart or see what I did, it's kind of upside down. I accidentally scanned it upside down, so I need to flip my page. If you don't have to do that kind of stuff, or if you want to get to know Inkscape on a deep level, you can certainly do that. But I find GIMP easier to use for image manipulation, so I like to do my cutting apart and flipping and things like that within GIMP, and then import that product right into Inkscape where I trace it into my digital vector. If you don't have to cut anything apart or flip it or fix it in any way whatsoever, you are more than welcome to go ahead and just import your source PDF or PNG into an Inkscape and skip over the GIMP process altogether. But I do need to flip this page and cut some images apart. So I'm going to go ahead and close my PDF and just return to the GIMP window. And then from File Explorer, I'm going to select that PDF. Now this PDF is just what my scanner produced when I scanned the document. So yours might produce a JPEG, a PNG, or a PDF depending on what you chose to create. I'm going to import that into GIMP by clicking on it and dragging it into the window. Now I like to make sure that I'm importing at 300 dpi just to make sure I'm starting from a nice big source image. If your computer can handle it, always kind of start at 300 dpi. You'll see me setting that option throughout the process because we want to make sure that we're always working with good size images. And go ahead and import. And here we can see my PDF. I'm going to just hit the plus key, so it's Shift plus for me on my keyboard. And I'm going to go up to Image, Transform, and I'm going to go ahead and rotate it 180 to get it facing the right direction. And then with my square selection tool, my rectangle select tool selected, I'm going to click and drag around one of the doodles and then press Control X to cut. And then under the Edit menu, you can actually paste as a new image. That's a nice little shortcut. And now it's in its own little window there. And from here, again, now I have a good source file. I can file Export As, and I'm going to call this Doodle 3 source. You'll see me use underscore source a lot throughout my process, and that basically just tells me as I'm working with my files that this is not my final product, because I will end up with a final PNG version of my digital graphic as well. So I want to make sure I realize that this is the one coming out of my scan and not my final product. Okay, now if you need to switch to the PNG file type, just select this option down here, and you can just scroll down in the list. It should be in alphabetical order for you, and you can find the PNG option there. I'm already in my correct folder, but if I wasn't, I could select folders here and then go ahead and double click to get into the folder. Okay, I'm going to export. And generally the default settings that they give you are going to be great. You're not going to have to tweak anything there. Just go ahead and click export. And so now if I go back to my folder, I will see that I have a Doodle 3 source PNG. So now I can head over to Inkscape. And again, if you didn't have to cut images apart or flip anything or do anything whatsoever to your image, you would not have to go through that GIMP process, you could jump right in here and import your scan from your printer right into the Inkscape application. But since I needed to cut them apart and get this doodle all by itself, I'm going to go ahead, select that, and drag it in here. That's why I used GIMP. So now we can see my drawing there. Now generally, let's go ahead and, sorry, we got to open actually the pane, the trace bitmap plane. So what trace bitmap does is trace your bitmap into a vector image. And depending on what you hope to get or what you're working with, I'm working with a single color. And for my purposes, I end up in black and white, but I'll show you how to work with different color images too. Now you can get to everything under your menus. Trace bitmaps is under Path, but you can also use the keyboard shortcut Shift-Alt-B to get to this feature. And you'll see it pops open the pane over here. Now for black and white images, I like to use this brightness cutoff and then just kind of play with the threshold. You can see in the preview down here, there's a little bit of fading in some of the pieces. So you can generally increase the threshold a little bit to have the lines fill in a little bit better in the image down there. And I kind of like that. That feels good to me. That feels like a good black and white right there. And so I can go ahead and click apply, and it's going to create that vector version over top of my bitmap. You can see that that's still down there. But this is in black and white. Let me show you how to get this in color. Maybe you want to keep it blue. Maybe you would want to keep your handwriting in exactly the color that it was created in. You can come over to multicolor. And what I'd like to do here is change this to colors and set it to stack and remove background. And go ahead, 8 is fine. I've left it at 8 and it seems to do pretty good. So I don't change that default setting unless there are more colors or more detail in the image. The more colors, the more details there are in the image, the more you need to increase your scans to get the desired result. And again, just watch the preview window down here and it will kind of show you what your end result will be. But since I'm only working in one color, I can hit apply, give it a minute to process. And I will have now a blue vector version of this same image. But what I work with is usually in black and white. So I'm going to go ahead and delete well, actually I can leave it on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and delete the bitmap though, because I don't want to confuse myself. And here's what I'll do. I'll leave both versions on this same source file. So I'm going to right now save this file, Control S. Now, when you're saving your Source SVG, and I say Source SVG because Inkscape files, which is what I'm creating right now, you'll see the Save As type is Inkscape SVG. It's just a little bit different than the SVG version you're going to want for your craft programs or your other image editing programs. I found that there's just a little bit of quirkiness with the Inkscape SVG, and I'll show you how we're going to export. So this is Doodle 3. And again, it's a source file. This is not my final SVG, so I'm going to underscore source it. This way I know this is not the SVG that I want to upload into any of those places I just talked about. And I'm going to go ahead and click on save. Now again, I work in black and white, so I'm going to click on my black version of this image, and I want to go to the export PNG option. Make sure selection is there, and again, change this DPI to 300. We always just want to be working from a nice, good size image, okay? Now down here by default, it's sent to PNG for me. And I can click on this folder here, navigate to the folder that I need to be in. So I'm putting everything into my books artwork folder. Oh, let me come down to Happy Place, artwork. And this I was calling Doodle 3. Now this is my final PNG file that I would use in my print documentation. So I can go ahead and save it just as Doodle 3 PNG, save. Now I can also from this menu create that plain SVG that I talked about. And again, I'm only exporting the black version right now. If I wanted to create a blue version, I could select that one and make sure selection is chosen and go through these same processes. But here, if I select plain SVG, Doodle 3 is already in there for me. I can go ahead and export it, and it's going to go into the same folder. Let's head on over to our folder and I'll show you what it did. So Doodle 3, so here's my original source PNG. This is what I exported out of GIMP and imported into the Doodle 3 source, where I traced it and created that black and then the blue digital vector versions. And then I selected the black vector version and exported that into a final plain SVG and PNG that I can yet then upload and use in different image applications on my merch. So the SVG is going to be great if you're working with merch and you need an image that's going to look good on both a mug and then a hoodie. So you need to have it in different sizes without losing any quality. The PNG is good, right? For again, print materials, things of a book size, which is what I'm working on. It makes it a smaller image file size, and it's all I really need for that purpose. So it's up to you and what you need to use the files for, but this is how you can create those digital vectors, right? The digital vector image from your hand drawing scanned on your scanner using two free open source applications, GIMP. So GIMP and Inkscape, which you can get online, again, totally free, great programs, great resources for artists. All right, thank you for stopping by. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to learn.